Hello and welcome everyone to tonight's wonderfully exciting community conversation that is spanning states across the nation and even across the world. We really appreciate you joining us here tonight for this virtual discussion and welcome those who are watching the recording at a later date. My name is Tim Horgan. I am the Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is dedicated to helping people better understand the world around them. Of course, tonight's topic is one that does not get a lot of attention in the international news today, what with major conflicts in both Israel, Gaza, in Ukraine, with many other issues around the world. But this is no less important for people to be aware of. So we're very excited and appreciative of you for joining us here tonight. The World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, as I mentioned, is a nonpartisan organization, and therefore we do not take any stances on candidates, politics, parties, or policies. We are here to be the platform for discussion, and we provide expert speakers who are able to provide context and insights into the issues we discuss. We hope that you take this information that you learn here tonight and throughout our other programs that we run and bring your own conclusions to what the best path forward is. As a membership and donor-supported organization, we, of course, are very honored to have such a robust community of people who support our work. To everyone who is a member, thank you so much for your commitment to ensuring that these global conversations continue to happen. And also a big thank you to all of our donors and sponsors who also support our work in their very own ways. One of our biggest supporters is Southern New Hampshire University, our mission partner in all of our programs. And as you'll see on our screen right now, we have quite a few great partners here for tonight's event, both in New Hampshire, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Cleveland, and Columbus, Ohio. So thank you so much to all of our partners for helping to make this program possible. Now, I'd like to bring on to screen our two wonderful speakers for tonight, Suraj Budathoki and Kara Timsina. We'll bring them on now. We really appreciate you guys giving us your time and your insights into the various issues and topics that I will challenge you to answer for our group here tonight. So a bit of background on our speakers. Suraj, many people in New Hampshire, I'm sure know, is a small business owner, previously was interim executive director of Building Community in New Hampshire, formerly the Bhutanese community of New Hampshire, one of our program partners for tonight. He was resettled to New Hampshire in 2009 from Bhutan. And in Bhutan, he had worked previously as the executive director for the International Campaign for Human Rights. He is also, most importantly for tonight's conversation, the co-founder of Peace Initiative Bhutan, as you'll see in his title there. Kara Timsina is a founding member and executive director of the Bhutanese Community Association of Pittsburgh. He was also resettled to the U.S. in 2009. As you can guess, he's in Pittsburgh these days, but has a great background in teaching, both in Bhutan, in Nepal, and in other places. He is vice president of an interpreting firm and also has been nationally recognized for his years of service to the Bhutanese community in Pittsburgh. So we are really lucky, really fortunate to be able to hear from these great speakers here tonight. And I'll turn it over first to Suraj for a few remarks, and then Kara will come up next, and then we'll get into a bit of a conversation. So Suraj, take it over.
And introduction. I'm honored to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the New Hampshire World Affairs Council for allowing us to convene and deliberate on matters of profound significance for us, and also to New Hampshire community. As a co-founder of the Peace Initiative Bhutan and a former Bhutanese refugee, now residing as a U.S. citizen, I'm particularly humbled to have the chance to share insights about Bhutan and its journey towards peace building and reconciliation. Well, throughout our time together here in this session, I eagerly anticipate discussions on the potential for fostering positive change through the principles of peace building and reconciliations. Well, drawing upon my personal experiences and deep-rooted connection to Bhutan, I am committed to offering perspectives that resonate with empathy and understanding. Well, furthermore, I extend an open invitation to each of you to engage in dialogue and pose any questions you may have in this session. Together, let us embark on a journey of discovery as Bhutan is a new country, to this part of the world, as we collectively explore avenues for building a more harmonious and compassionate world. Thank you. Kara.
Tim, thank you. Good evening to everyone watching this show. Tim, thank you for that kind introduction. Today in my presentation, I'm going to begin with the time that we left Bhutan. Many of you must have already learned about the issues that happened in 1990s and prior to that, and what caused our expulsion from the country in early 1990s. So as in the introduction, it's a personal story, and my personal story can be generalized to the general Bhutanese refugees diaspora. So for anyone who has to leave their country isn't an easy thing. It, there is a lot that goes into the minds of people when they are leaving their country. And then I'm going to also cover the actual impact of having to leave one's country, and how refugees cope up with what comes in their life. Probably we'll come back to the situation when before we left Bhutan. Maybe we'll discuss about what were those major causes, but then in brief, I can say that around late 1980s, the government of Bhutan, then absolute monarchy, brought out policies, adopted citizenship acts that was aimed at ethnic cleansing. And out of the Citizenship Act, there were a lot of policies that either categorize families into different categories within citizenship. Some members, remain citizens, while the members of the same families were categorized as non-nationals. But then there were a lot of things that went in between the adoption of those policies and the time we had to leave Bhutan. So what was it like in the camp? I try to bring up three major things: housing, food, and healthcare, because what we went through for nearly 2 decades in the refugee camp has direct impact on our health, how we live here in whichever country we have resettled in. So looking at the first picture on the left, that was how we were clustered into makeshift bamboo huts. And then you can imagine the toilets for the refugees were in between the rows of those huts where we lived. The second picture depicts a typical kitchen that we had to depend on for cooking our food. And needless to say, our food completely depended on what was provided, what was donated. Quite often, when the food that was shipped from somewhere else reached our kitchens in a very bad state, and we had no options but to find what was left edible. That was how we were fed. And then talking about the healthcare, we almost had a ratio of 1 doctor to 10,000 patients. So with that situation, many of the refugees, underwent silent suffering, and there was no such thing called preventive medicine or preventive healthcare. Refugees went to see a doctor only when they were in a very severe pain, in case of broken bones, in case of maternity labor. For simple headaches, stomach pain, it was really tough to fall in line. And I can still remember myself getting into a line to see a doctor early in the morning. Lines start forming, and then by the time the doctors finish their day shift, 4 p.m., there's still a line, and then people, they see the doctor leave, and they have to return to their house. So with that background of housing, with that background of nutrition and medical care, you can imagine how we ended up here, and how we must be living, making our life with every hope of getting better every day. People, those who have undergone torture, visible torture and suffering, they have their own stories. But not many people think of certain areas of suffering, and I'm talking about unrecognized trauma and loss that people feel when they left the country. So I try to categorize how it meant for different age groups of people. For adults, um, the trauma and loss of having to leave their ancestral home, and the land that they put a labor of their life. They know what the pain is when they have to leave their ancestral home. For youth, to spend most economically productive age without work and future security. So I can give my own example. When I entered the refugee camp, I was in my early 20s, meaning that was the time when I had to start making my earnings for life. And then those youth in that age group, when they were supposed to be earning and making their life for their family, start a family, that was all lost. So as a repercussion, what we ended up doing here, to do more than one job, so that we are trying to make up for the loss of the time we did back in the camp. So which means that comes at a sacrifice of our time for entertainment, for our hobbies, and for quality family time. And for government employees, those who are working in public service, they had to, they were unwillingly terminated without compensation and their eligible pension. So they had to give up those things, and they had been dreaming their whole life, working and thinking of security for their old age, and they didn't get that one. As for the farmers, having to leave their crops in the field when they left the country, when they had to leave the country in the middle of their crop growing, as well as that strong bond they had developed with their farm animals that helped them in the field. So these are not normally taken care of, but then these things really go into how these people who have now gone into their senior years keep suffering from mental health issues. And then how we are still struggling in the Bhutanese diaspora across. We are spread across 8 different countries, and then families are spread apart. Some are in Bhutan, some in Nepal, and some have resettled. And then, just so you know, none of us, there is no record of any resettled Bhutanese refugee or any Bhutanese refugee that have receive any access or permission to enter Bhutan as of today. So relatives in Bhutan, they cannot either afford to travel to US or get a US visa for visit. Now I can share a personal story here again. My parents-in-law, they are desperately wanting to see their son before they pass away. They are in their late 80s, and they're always worried about when they could see their only son who is left in Bhutan. So this is one part of the story. And then those still in the camp, they are no longer receiving any humanitarian assistance. So after 2018, when the resettlement for the Bhutanese refugees in Nepal stopped, soon after, UNHCR and followed by other agencies stopped their humanitarian assistance. So those refugees who are around 6,000 to 7,000 still in the camp, they have no humanitarian assistance, and they have very hard time living. And many of us are desperately hoping to see our family members, relatives before we die. Our seniors are very much affected and have chronic mental suffering due to this separation. Now, on the other side, the country that expelled us forcefully, sent us out of the country, they do a lot of talk about the gross national happiness. And many of you, I believe, have heard about it and may have really appreciated the government of Bhutan. But here lies the other side of the story. The concept of gross national happiness might be a good idea and approach to measure a country's development index, but it makes no sense to not only those who are forced to leave the country, but also to many Nepali speakers still in the country whose citizenship has not been restored and are still living in an uncertain life. And then for the happiness and overall well-being of all, we ask Bhutan to give us permission visa to visit our family members and relatives. Until that happens, we are still separated with our immediate family members or relatives that were left in Bhutan. And without that, we cannot think of happiness. And we ask Bhutan government to take back those refugees in the camp in Nepal who wish to go back. Now, here I would like to say one other thing. None of the resettled refugees had this resettlement as their first choice. Everyone wanted to go back to their own homestead back in Bhutan. But then when meetings after meetings between the government of Nepal and Bhutan did not materialize any long-term solutions, and when governments of these 8 different countries offered resettlement, there was hope that we would take a chance and then make our lives better. So with that option, we opted to get resettled. So in one side, personally, our life have become better when we compare to what we were undergoing in the refugee camp. But then the body is here for many of us. The soul still remains in our homestead. And then as a community organization, now I'm talking about the organization I lead here in Pittsburgh, Bhutanese Community Association of Pittsburgh. On a daily basis, we come across a lot of our senior members reeling in poor mental health, and we will keep trying to advocate for them and for ourselves, as I too want to go back once and meet my friends and relatives. And in course of our work, we found Peace Initiative Bhutan, whose initiative looked promising, and I wholeheartedly decided to support Peace Initiative Bhutan's approach to reconciliation and open the possibilities of meeting of resettled refugees, those who are in the camp and those in Bhutan. And we will continue to advocate because what has happened continues to affect the mental health issues in our community. I give it back to Suraj from here. Thank you.
Tim, before we move to different topic, I would like to add two main reasons why, reasons behind expelling Nepali speaking Bhutanese citizens from Bhutan in early 1990s. One was the retroactive implementation of 1985 Citizenship Act. So what that did was, my family got citizenship in 1982 because of the Citizenship Act of 1958. But the retroactive implementation of 1985 Citizenship Act took my parents' citizenship away. And over the night, we became illegal immigrants in our own country. That's one main reason. The other reason is the implementation of one nation, one people policy. So meaning, Nepal, ethnic Nepali, we had our own distinct culture, language, dress code, belief, religion, and the ruling class people, Sharshob or Ngalong, had their own distinct culture. So the ruling class, the elite, the government implemented this policy and forced upon other ethnic minority like ethnic Nepali. So they took away our language, dress code, culture, and tradition, everything away. Even Nepali used to be a medium of instruction in school at that time, during that time. So Nepali language was taken away. Everything that we kept dear to our heart was taken away and made us, enforce the one nation, one people policy. So those were the main, reasons why we were expelled from government of Bhutan. And there was obviously, voices against these discriminatory policies, asking the government of Bhutan to rescind these policies, and government, implemented martial law, and many people were, arbitrarily arrested, imprisoned, tortured, and many were killed, and many still at this time are missing. So I just want to put that in. Here.
No, that's really helpful, and thank you for that, Suraj. One thing that maybe you could also clarify is the length of time that your community had been in Bhutan prior to 1985. Mm-hmm. This was not, a new thing that you guys had recently immigrated there. I think many people had never even been to Nepal before this was implemented. Right. So, Suraj Kara, can you talk just a little bit about that sort of history?
Yeah, let me touch base on that. So there are many research papers or books written on this, but as far as I know, early 17th century, people from Nepal, they migrated to Bhutan. It's not on their own wish. The civil administrator of Bhutan at that time in 1616, he went to Nepal, or somehow he went to Nepal, or he sent his people to Nepal to get some of the people from Gorkha, and that's how the ethnic Nepali started coming to Bhutan. And not only that, there are books that says prior to that, centuries ago, also ethnic Nepali used to go to Bhutan as a construction worker, and then subsequently, many ethnic Nepalis migrated to Bhutan prior to 1958. So whoever were there in 1958 or prior to that were given Bhutanese citizenship. For example, my own grandparent or great grandparent came to Bhutan in 1890. So my grandfather, my parents, and I was born in Bhutan. And overnight, due to the change of Citizenship Act of 1985, we were made illegal immigrant.
You know, understand this way, Tim. Bhutan became a nation in 1907. And just now, Suraj said his ancestors were in Bhutan in the 1800s. So there were Nepali-speaking Bhutanese even before the country was born. So, meaning the Nepali-speaking population had a lot in the development of the country, in the protection of the country, in the development of the country.
Great. Okay. So Suraj, we'll turn it back to you to talk a little bit about Peace Initiative Bhutan, and then we'll hop into a bit of a conversation. So please.
Sure. Excuse me. So, Peace Initiative Bhutan, PIB, is a non-profit organization registered in the state of Ohio, because we have a lot of, Bhutanese Americans living there. And we also have, 40 plus Bhutanese Americans in Pennsylvania area also. But we have chosen to register this organization in Ohio. It is, basically established to build positive peace in Bhutan through, reconciliation on mutual trust, based on mutual trust and understanding. So we believe the holistic process of transitional justice, or peace building and reconciliation process, is the right approach or process to address our ongoing issues. We, are working on bridging the existing gap between Bhutan and us in the diaspora, really to bridge the gap and find out understanding about the ongoing issues. And we're not doing this to defeat the government of Bhutan, but to find a win-win solution. And we do not take this issue as, zero-sum game. We really want to show that we really want to build positive peace and reconciliation in Bhutan through based on mutual trust and understanding. So what PIB did so far, or its achievement? So we have, registered in 2022, and we have done a couple of, big events in 2022 or 2023. So one thing that I want to share here is that in 2023, we took around 19 PIB members to, White House, and we had great sharing about our issues. And then we had, meeting with State Department, and we continue to have our conversation with State Department about our plight and about how to address our, ongoing issues. And we did meet a couple of, congressmen and congresswomen, and then we were able to, along with our, community members or leaders, advisors, were able to register a resolution in the U.S. Congress. So one resolution is there at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and one at the Senate House Foreign Affairs Committee. So it's there, and we're making, our every efforts to make it pass through. So we continue to seek, release of political prisoners, because since 1990s they have been there incarcerated, and they are not able to even talk to or meet with their loved ones who are here resettled in the United States. We are continue to advocate for, family reunification. The problem is we have our loved ones back in Bhutan, our parents, grandparents, and Bhutan does not give us a visa to visit. Even in our, funerals, to attend to our parents or grandparents who are left behind in Bhutan. Even in funerals, we're not able to meet or attend. So that's very, painful, story that we've been, living. And as Kara said, there are around 7,000 Bhutanese refugees in Nepal, and we're always, advocating for their righteous solution. And Peace Initiative is there not to deride government of Bhutan, because we understand the importance or significance of the other side. In the absence of other side, there is no dialogue. So for dialogue, we are creating a conducive environment where both the party could be able to sit down together for a dialogue and find common ground, or even go through a holistic process of peace building and reconciliation, starting from, TRC, writing common history, finding common ground, reparation, and finally or eventually reconciliation. So that's what PIB does, and we've been doing so far great work. Thank you, Tim.
All right. Having a little trouble there. All right. Well, thank you, Suraj, for that and for your great work. I think I've got a lot of questions that have come up within that. But one of the things that I think people really should maybe take as a starting point, and people may not realize, is that the U.S. does not have diplomatic relations with the country of Bhutan. Can you talk a little bit about why that is, and what can be done about that, if anything, and what impact that has on your communities. Kara, you've already spoken a little bit about the travel issues, but just love to hear your feedback on that.
So, government in the United States government has been, trying to establish diplomatic relations with the government of Bhutan. But as far as I know, Bhutan is reluctant to establish any, diplomatic relations with any of the United Nations permanent member countries. But United States government and the government of Bhutan enjoy informal but warm relationship. But U.S. has its, a consulate office in U.S. Embassy in India, and they have an officers to look over Bhutan's affairs. So currently, what we're doing is we're engaging directly with the U.S. State Department that oversee Bhutan's affairs. They call it Bhutan Dex office. So we've been in constant in touch with them, and we're also working together with U.S. Embassy in Kathmandu and India as well. So last week only we had, PIB had a meeting with U.S. State Department Bhutan Dex officer, and we're having next meeting with Kathmandu, U.S. office in Kathmandu coming month. So we have been advocating for establishing full-fledged U.S. embassy in Bhutan, but it is, hopefully, because recently we have read a report from U.S. congressional report saying that Biden administration is working towards formalizing or having a formalized relationship with the government of Bhutan. So I think we're positive that one day, but the U.S. government will have its full-fledged embassy in Bhutan, and I really hope that government, United States government will take our issue of chronic family separation and be able to meet our family members, visit Bhutan, and maybe our family members who are incarcerated in Bhutan will be released, and the refugee issue would be resolved.
Okay, wonderful. And Kara, can you maybe talk a little bit about what it would mean for your community if relations were improved between the two countries, the U.S. and Bhutan?
So it was last year. I'm sharing again a personal story, and this story can reflect the stories of many more Bhutanese. My parents-in-law, they wanted to, because they cannot travel into Bhutan, so the other option was for them to sponsor their son for a visit. And not having a U.S. embassy in Bhutan made his son travel all the way to another country to apply and to sit for the interview, and which was eventually denied. So they traveled to another country, and then they got to return with their hope dashed. So on one side, the son is trying to see his parents. They are very old. On the other side, parents had the same feeling. Once this efforts materializes and that we see a U.S. consular office or embassy, full-fledged embassy opens in Bhutan, it will open doors for many families. There will be a big relief. A lot of mental health issues, especially among seniors, will go down. There will be a lot of travel, and it's going to do good to Bhutan too, because when we travel, we go with U.S. dollars. So Bhutan will start seeing revenue coming in indirectly, and because this initiative looks at not trying to dig what happened in the past, but trying to forget what happened and develop new healthier relationship, which will do good for both Bhutan and to the Bhutanese diaspora.
Okay, and one of the things that I think is particularly interesting in all of this is how or what's happened to the lands, the businesses, the communities that you were displaced from. Have those been distributed or given out, or is there still an opportunity for some resettlement to happen? I'll let either of you take that.
Kara, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
You can go.
Okay, so we don't know that, but what we know is, there have been news that the northern Drukpas have been given our lands for resettlement, so they are now living in our land. But this is very important. Why we want peace building and reconciliation or transitional justice? Because there is a component called reparation. There's a component called truth finding, truth seeking, and then common ground, and then reconciliation. So of course we lost our land. Of course we have connection, or we have deep connected to our land back in Bhutan. So even though those land were taken away that we cherished for so long, generations, we work hard and we grow crops, and we do have that memory instilled in our brain. So the process of peace building and reconciliation will help to get out of that land, meaning reparation would help to assuage that in a relationship.
Kara, anything you'd like to add?
I think some of the people's lands have been lying vacant for probably two reasons. One of the reasons is, even in the past, most other northern Bhutanese or the Bhutanese of the other sects of the kings group, they feared living in the south due to malaria. But then our ancestors, dare to leave and start cultivating crops, contributing to Bhutan's economic development. And still, some families, even those who are offered, people from the north who are offered land, our land in the south, I have heard they were not so willing to settle in the south because of the fear of the malaria. But then, as Suraj said, most of our homes and lands have been redistributed to the Drukpa group.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions coming in, and I encourage anyone watching the live stream of this to please send us your questions, whether through our council email or on the comment section wherever you're watching. But Susan in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, would like to know what the real reason was for the Bhutanese community getting rid of, displacing the Nepalese population.
Well, reading the books and literature, I found that the anxiety or the perceived threat by the government of Bhutan or the ruling class from the ethnic Nepali minorities. So it's because Bhutan wanted to pursue what do you call unique identity, a nation of unique identity. And we, ethnic Nepali, had our own, language, culture, dress, tradition, everything distinct, and they wanted to make it, homogenized or unique cultural identity of a nation. And we came into their, we became a wedge to achieve that, goal. So they brought this one people, one nation policy, and wanted us to, follow their culture and tradition, and we protested against following their religion and culture. So that's the main reason, because we became a stumbling stone for their goal to achieve a distinct cultural country.
Thanks. Kara, anything to add?
Again, back to my own example. Back then, I was pursuing a diploma in agriculture. And that was the time when I was in the northwestern part of the country, around the time the peaceful demonstrations were happening, where people were asking for these basic rights Suraj brought about. So imposition of Bhutanese costume in the southern Bhutan was really a difficult thing because southern plain of the country experiences subtropical to tropical type of climate, and their dress code, which is a woolen, um, which looks like a woolen blanket put around your body, was really difficult for especially those people who were working in the field, because it was imposed. People were either arrested or fined if they were found in other clothes. So that proved very, very difficult for us. And then, as Suraj brought about the elimination of Nepali language from the national curriculum, where children were deprived of Nepali education in their school, which was there until around 1987-88, after which they removed everything from the national curriculum. So I would say, going back to my story, so I completed my diploma in 1992. And then, to my surprise, they asked me to produce a no objection certificate, and that was another block. How Bhutan government wanted to block every Nepali-speaking Bhutanese citizen from getting into school, into college, into starting a business, getting into military or police force, or getting into a college or government employment. And that no objection certificate was to be received from the police department. So. In a batch of 18 students, I was one among 6 or 7, those from the southern Bhutanese that spoke Nepali, were, we completed in excellence the training. And then, when the rest of the non-Nepali speaking Bhutanese were instantly provided government service jobs, we were denied. We were asked to produce no objection certificate. So I traveled 2 days to my hometown asking the police department to provide me one, and they denied, saying that they had in their records my dad had participated in the peaceful rally. That was the only reason they did denied me NOC. And then I decided to go back to the police headquarters in the capital. They denied it. Then I made my last hope of talking to the home minister and went to the government headquarters in Thimphu, and I was denied there too. And now you see, I had nowhere to go. That
Mhm.
was Job was the only hope I would make a living. So my everything was cut off with that denial of service in the government. And there were no public sectors then. There was no private companies. It was all government control, and there was no chance for people like me to get into workforce. So even if they did not point a gun at my chest, but then indirectly it was like that. So many people had to, were forced to leave that way because they completely clipped off their wings to livelihood. What do you think?
Well, thank you for sharing that. So I think one thing to note here as well is that this occurred under the monarchy in 2008. Bhutan transitioned to a parliamentary democracy, flawed as it is. But Bhutan just held an election for its parliament back in January. Reports seem to be that it was a free and fair election, but would love to get your guys' insights into where the government stands today, and what you think the prospects for this peace effort are, in terms of this new government, and whether or not democracy is doing well in Bhutan.
Well, I'm U.S. citizen, and I've been here since 2008, 2009, and I have never had a chance to go to Bhutan and and see what's going on there in terms of democracy, whether it's working perfectly or not, whether people's votes have been counted correctly or not. I don't know that, but whenever we read newspaper, it says yes, Bhutan is a democratic country. It has election every 5 years, 5 year, and all of those things. And I believe that it is democratic country. But still, as I said, I'm in the United States, been here for many years, haven't got a chance to visit in my birth country. So now chances of peace building and reconciliation or truth or transitional justice from this government. So I think it is not just we that we need peace building and reconciliation. It is, I think, equally Bhutan should think about implementing this transitional justice to address the ongoing issue that makes Bhutan unhappy in global stage. Of course, they have been traveling around the world with that with their well marketed happiness philosophy or paradigm, gross national happiness. But we know that the people are not happy inside because there are family separation, there are political prisoners in prison, their statelessness, in their own country. The children are not Bhutanese citizen because one of their parents is a foreign citizen. So I think there are some prospects that the peace building and reconciliation would bring happiness, real happiness, authentic happiness in Bhutan. One thing, what peace building and reconciliation does is it promotes healing and emotional recovery. So this process provides an opportunity for individuals and communities to heal from the traumatic experience of conflict. Yes, the exiled Bhutanese and our family members who are back in Bhutan were traumatized. We do not have yet created a collective healing process. We need that. So while doing so, this process will provide us a space for open dialogue, truth telling, truth seeking, and acknowledging the suffering and pain that we have endured, or both parties endured, those who were involved at that time. So that's one important reason why we need peace building and reconciliation. The other reason is it restores the trust and social cohesion. Now it's like we're polarized communities from Bhutan. So often conflict results in an erosion of trust among individuals and communities, but peace building and reconciliation aim to build that broken trust that we have now and foster social cohesion by creating platforms for communication, understanding, and empathy. And further, eventually, this help repair relationships and foster a sense of shared responsibility and collective identity among diverse groups. So I think the very important that I see is this process addresses the root causes of conflict. So now, even though Bhutan goes around the world saying that it's the happiest country, has gross national happiness, but inside it, the root cause of the conflict that took place in the 90s has not resolved. So there are conflict of such as inequality, discrimination against minority population, or injustices. So peace building and reconciliation lays foundation for for long-term sustainable peace by addressing these underlying issues. So I think there are prospects that the current government of Bhutan would see this is helping not just exile Bhutanese, but also help transform the adversarial Bhutanese society into harmonious and peaceful community in near future.
Thanks for that. And before we go to Kara, I just want to say I find it difficult to believe that they can call themselves the happiest place on earth and that they have a great democracy when 100,000 out of 800,000 or 900,000 people of Bhutanese descent are kicked out of the country and dispossessed of their citizenship. So that's my little soapbox moment. But Kara, anything to add?
Yeah, to answer your question about how we react to Bhutan becoming a democratic country and talking about the recent fair elections, I'm just looking at one factor, and that is time. So time is a factor that tends to heal people. When I take myself, those years when we were in that camp, almost every day we would think think of Bhutan as a factor, as a causal entity for our suffering. Now, with this resettlement and having started a new life, the kind of feeling we had towards Bhutan in the camp has gradually changed as those bad feelings have gone away, and we have started thinking about what we can do uh, to make both the sides better. So I think with the change in time, that the leaders that have come up to lead the country, to lead the government, when we still have king as the overall authority in the country, but then it is our hope that these younger leaders with education abroad will start thinking broadly, and start making some considerations in um, accepting what was done, what wrong they did, and then forgive, um, and then love and unite. That is what you can see behind my screen, and that is why what I believe will happen.
It's almost like you plan to have that behind your head for this. That's great. So I want to turn to another viewer question from Becky Field, an amazing woman who has done a lot of great work here in New Hampshire with various refugee groups. And Kara, I know you have done a lot of work on mental health with the mental health first aid training and other initiatives in your community. Suraj, I know stuff here as well. But what can receiving communities do to address the issues and help support the mental health of Bhutanese and other refugees? As you both mentioned, sort of that's a big issue here in these communities. So Kara, why don't we start with you?
First, I appreciate the question, and then I would like to begin by saying the best help the other communities can do to improve our mental health is to openly express or show the welcomingness, and that can be shown in different ways. Say, for example, um, I moved into a new neighborhood, buying a home. Now I have come with my own culture, and food comes under culture. The way I, prepare my food in the kitchen differs from my next door neighbor who has been in the country for years, and they have their own culture. And then our food comes with a lot of spices. When we cook, we have a lot of the smell of spices go out. Accept it. Okay, this is how they cook, this is how they eat, and not make it a topic of discussion. Secondly, there were a lot of comments initially when we came to Pittsburgh. People had to say, these people walk in large groups along this road. Then, without having understood why they had to walk, why they were walking, um, people had a lot of comments to make. And then people still believe that we have come here to take their jobs. And to me, what we have taken is what other people don't want. That is what we have taken in. That's what we believe. And then, of course, um, very practically saying, if you want to, stop by a neighbor's home and say hello, that would be a practical sign of welcomingness. Invite your new neighbor to your home. Um, Offer tea, coffee. These are very small things, but will go a long way in making people feel more comfortable. Talking about how we have been working on our on mitigating mental health issues. So the first thing we try to do is make sure that we fulfill the promise we made to our parents. Many of us, at the time of applying for resettlement back in the camp, we had to convince our parents that we would take care of what they like doing. So one thing they were suspicious, they were doubtful about was whether or not they would have a temple to worship, whether they would be able to eat the food they like, whether they would be able to celebrate the festivals they have been celebrating for generations. And we said, we will take care. And that is what every community organization in each cities we live, try to at least organize community events surrounding the celebrations of festivals. So that is one way. The other way is um, youth. Talking about the youth, we are still more into soccer than the American football, and not having enough um, ethnic sports facilities where these youth can go and play um, is still lacking, um, at least in my part of the state. The other areas is um, making spaces available for these communities, not just ours, but every other refugee immigrant community, opening up spaces for regular meetings and celebrations of festivals, big or small. These small things can go a long way in helping newer communities and live well.
Well, I always love small things that can make a big difference. So thank you for sharing that, Suraj. Please.
Yeah, I do have something, a different idea, different perspective than what Kara has shared. So I do believe when we read some of the research done on mental health and suicidal rate and on Buddhist American population, there are reasons. One I often find is chronic family separation. Other is PTSD, trauma during expulsion, their expulsion and during their refugee life and their resettlement. So now we know the root cause, family separation, PTSD during the expulsion and during the refugee life. So I think, yes, whatever we're doing currently, I think it's sort of a band-aid to address the current mental health issue. But in long run, I think what I suggest is, what I think is, we need to involve in peace building and reconciliation, because there is a collective healing in this process, in this or transitional justice system or framework. There is a collective healing, there's a healing process there. So I think this will be, mental health and suicidal rate in our community, in Buddhist American community, will be addressed through engaging in peace building and reconciliation process. But at this time, whether it's a band-aid or short-term band-aid, I think it's really not working, because we see continuously research done on our issue, mental health issue, and it's been growing. And if the thing that we're doing now would have helped or decreased the mental health and suicidal rate in our community.
Great, appreciate that. One final community question, then I'll have one question, and then we'll give you guys a final opportunity. So Richard Menard, who Suraj, I'm sure you know well.
I know him, yes.
Took your job, I think. Speaking of taking jobs, it's not always the immigrants taking the jobs, right? So he'd like to know, is there dialogue happening in the U.S. with Bhutanese immigrants who still consider themselves real Bhutanese, and can reconciliation start here?
Okay, so here among Buddhist Americans, correct?
Yes.
So, Peace Initiative Bhutan has been, organizing events, community events in several cities and several towns where Buddhist Americans are residing. We did once in Columbus, Ohio. Hundreds of people gathered there, and we listened to them. We shared our perspective, how peace building and reconciliation would help us reunite with our family members, reunite with our roots, how we can have, transformative relationship with the government of Bhutan and people inside Bhutan, how this will heal, our, community members. We did, talk about this, processes to our, the event that we did in Columbus, and we have done this event, small group event in Harrisburg last month. And there are many positive voices that acknowledge that peace building and reconciliation is the potential and a framework that will address the ongoing mental health, family separation, that our community has been going through. So yes, we have been doing within our community, and also we have done a couple of informal, dialogue with people inside Bhutan, youths. They were there to share their voices, and we also, brought our PIB youth members, and we had an informal Zoom dialogue with those people inside Bhutan. So we're trying to reconnect with our roots, with people inside Bhutan, and also among our Bhutanese community here in the United States.
And Kara, what does it look like for Pittsburgh?
Well, I have nothing new to add to what Suraj said. I only think that the Bhutan government hears our voice. We still love Bhutan. We have our relatives, we have our friends, whether they are Nepali speaking or non-Nepali speaking. Our intention is to see Bhutan grow, develop, and be, prove that and they are able to prove that the country as with the gross national happiness and be the happiest country in the world. And to any effect, the Bhutanese in resettling in other countries, I'm sure think the same way as I do, and that we don't have to wait any longer to see, Bhutan government open borders, open visas for us, and we are there to our relatives.
Team,
Yeah.
can I answer one question from the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, Dog Hall.
Yeah, I was going to go there next. Yes, Doug Hall here in New Hampshire would like to know if you've received any support from people inside Bhutan and Bhutan's government.
Well, not openly. PIB has been in contact with our family members and also other youths who are doing well in community. We've been in contact with them, but they understand our pain and suffering. They want to help us, but they cannot bring this issue of family separation and political prisoners to the higher level of government, like His Majesty the King or the Prime Minister. We do have conversation oftentimes, but frankly, they think that supporting exiled Bhutanese would be against the government of Bhutan or against the Nationality Act of 1992. So I think the more we work, the more we project ourselves as a peace builder, not hurting the government of Bhutan or trying to work towards building peace and reconciliation that will help Bhutan and Bhutanese people. I think that would help both divided community together and help us project ourselves as a peace builders and then address all of this issue without defeating or without tarnishing their image in the global stage.
Okay, great. So the final thing that I want to ask about and just really quickly touch on and encourage people to look more into this as well is relations with China, India, sandwiched in between these two large nations. China has a border dispute with Bhutan, claiming about 20% of Bhutan's land. Any comments or insights that you think would be particularly important to share with our audience?
May I? Okay, Kara can help me, later on. So I think this is very, very sensitive issue as U.S. government, who believe in territorial integrity of other countries. So the border dispute between China and Bhutan primarily, I think, revolves around the Doklam Plateau, a strategic, reason located at the tri-junction between China, Bhutan, and India. So Bhutan claims sovereignty over the Doklam Plateau, while China asserts its control based on, they call it historical claims. The area holds its strategic significance due to its proximity or closeness to the narrow Siliguri corridor, also famously called Chicken Snake, which very importantly connects India's mainland to its northeastern states. This is very important, space here, land here. So not only this, the government of China also took Bhutan's northern Himalayas called Kulagangri years ago, and China now lays claim to several Bhutanese territories, including Jakarlung and Pasamlung in central Bhutan. Sinchalung, Dramana, and Sektoe or Sektang Wildlife Reserve in western Bhutan. So the absence of diplomatic, relations with China makes very, complicated here, and they have to communicate, Chinese government through Chinese embassy in India. So I believe both sides should engage in direct dialogue to address their respective concerns and interests through diplomacy. The negotiation process should be based on mutual respect, even though Bhutan is a small country, and that would not, obviously happen, adhering to international law and the principles of resolution of disputes, principles of peace building, resolutions of disputes. However, I am concerned, really, really concerned that Bhutan is not up to the par with the power of the Republic of China. Without the international community's support, I think Bhutan will it eventually, like we know the example that Bhutan has lost a couple of its land to China. Bhutan will be forced to seize its land to China.
Kara, anything you'd like to add?
The only thing I would like to say here is, well, Suraj described everything what is happening with regards to Chinese encroachment of the Bhutanese land in the north. So whether it is China or India, as a former Bhutanese citizen, as a former Bhutanese person, now American citizen, I think all my fellow refugees across United States and across the globe will definitely say the same thing, that they do not like that the size of the country keep diminishing. We had one figure when we were studying Bhutanese geography. The area of Bhutan was 47,000 square kilometers, and now it has gone down below 46,000. So, any news of a bigger country encroaching the land of a smaller country doesn't sound good to anyone, including me. And like any Bhutanese nationals living in the Bhutan, it will definitely give a pain to displaced Bhutanese elsewhere with that kind of encroachment. That's all I want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see a number of similar cases around the world today of bigger countries trying to bully smaller countries, and to varying successes. But I appreciate you both giving us your time and your insights. I always like to, I know we're a bit past our hour, but always like to give our speakers a final opportunity to add anything you think we might have missed. I think we covered quite a lot of ground here tonight, and I really appreciate your insights, but I'll turn it to you for any final comments.
Well, it's just a note of thank you, team. Thank you to you, and thank you to Betty from World Affairs Council here in Pittsburgh for looping me into this one. And thank you, Suraj, for having me as a co-presenter with you. It is it means a lot to me. I'm honored, and I wish you best, Suraj, with the Peace Initiative Bhutan, and any opportunity I may find to provide our support. I'm here only with a hope that one day we are able to see our people getting an opportunity to see their friends, relatives back in Bhutan, and that the kind of suffering that we have been undergoing goes away too.
Sure. Thank you, Karatim Sinha. Oh, you muted, I think. Well, in closing, I want to convey a message to the government of Bhutan. Our efforts here stem from a sincere desire to see Bhutan truly embody the ideals of peace and happiness. Concealing pain and suffering behind the facade of gross national happiness is a burden too heavy to bear. We, the people who were born there, continue to endure heartache, unable to attend our beloved family members, denied to attend their funerals. Even in the era of democracy, political dissenters languish behind bars, their voices silenced. Our goal is to make Bhutan a beacon of genuine happiness, where every citizen's rights and freedoms are respected. Now, my message to our audience here: I implore your support in realizing our aspirations, the reunification with our families, family members, the liberation of political prisoners, and the opportunity to revisit our birth country or native country. Without your support and solidarity, our journey towards a brighter future remains an uphill battle. Your support is paramount in turning our dreams into reality. In your spare time, please visit our website, www.pibhutan.org. Call your senators and representatives and ask for their support for Senate Resolution 108 and House Resolution 228. And I thank you all.
Well, thank you again. Kara, did you have something you wanted to add here?
Not to that, but I saw one question I wish I had time to answer.
Sure, go for it. Which question?
So there is a question: what are those 8 countries that resettled?
Yeah.
So U.S. resettled over close to 97,000. So it's the biggest one, and followed by Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, the Netherlands, Norway, and Denmark. Did I count 8? Yes, I think.
All right, great. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate both your support. I want to share 2 messages of support that you got from our audience tonight. So Cora in New Hampshire said she wants to send a message of hope to Suraj and Kara.
Hi, Cora.
Sounds like Suraj knows everyone here tonight.
Oh, yes. She's a good friend of mine. And she's advisor to PIB.
Good. And then R.O. from Texas. She can feel your sadness through your voices. Her heart goes out to you and hopes that you'll eventually have true and holistic reparations and reconciliation with your country.
We appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much to our audience for joining us here tonight. I really appreciate your interest, your questions. This was wonderful. So thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you, Tim, and New Hampshire. Thank you.